Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vital MX post-race show. That's 5 rounds of 2026 Monster Energy AMA Supercross done and dusted. Our fourth 450SX winner in 5 races. That stat is particularly appeasing as we head east a little bit here shortly, and therefore there is quite a lot to talk about on this episode of the Vital MX post-race show. Sure, Glendale maybe wasn't a barn burner of a race, but the narratives to come from it are really going to fuel this championship moving forward, barring any unexpected disasters. But touch wood, we're not going to have any of those in the immediate future. But first off, I'm joined, of course, by Michael Lindsay. How is it going?
Well, Glendale wasn't a barn burner, but it about burnt my eyes out. I'm still trying to be able to see. Apparently, when we have a stadium with a roof that opens, we don't open it enough during opening ceremonies.
Well, this only seems to be a Glendale issue every year, doesn't it? And I don't really know why it would be Glendale specific.
I mean, it's been on and off at the round or Minneapolis the one year, but I mean, okay, photographer on the floor, the simple way I can tell you is we're all the way almost to the main events and all the photos are hazy. Like it's sad in the bottom of the stadium. There is probably 100 people on our forum that said they were gagging sick. Our own Sean Ogden coughed up blood, which was a little bit concerning.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
again, this only seems to be come from Glendale. Like these comments only come from Glendale, and we go to other domes. We go to domes that don't have a
yeah,
roof that opens at all. Like I don't
just
understand
bad
why.
ventilation. Like Minneapolis, the one year where it just flat out wasn't ventilated properly and people basically were getting sick.
Yeah, but my point stands. Like it should be copy and paste across many domes, or at
Yeah.
least a majority.
Yeah.
But hey,
Or not, don't set off fireworks either. I don't know. It just doesn't work there for some reason.
I love Glendale. I will
Uh,
not hear a bad word
No.
about it. It's my
Well,
favorite race.
here's the problem. I agree with you. It's my favorite stadium. It's usually my favorite layout, but I have to complain that I literally couldn't breathe at the end of last night. Other than that, I freaking love Glendale.
There's always something with you. There's always something. Can never just be
Hey,
happy.
just
Never.
no, just a man just pointed out. I mean, I know you're up there in the press box, you get the better food, it's nice and air conditioned, you have your cold drinks, but you're just not out there with the people experiencing what the fan experiences. I'm sorry.
Well, I had fans in the press box. There's actually quite a lot of them in Glendale. But anyway, we should start with Ken Roczen, I presume. He is the winner, the newest winner in 2026. Glendale is, of course, his house of sorts, so perhaps no surprise that he broke through on this weekend. But this was my first question to him after the race. It felt like it, or it looked like it was maybe one of Kenny's, I don't want to use the word easiest, most comfortable wins in recent memory. Like from the moment he took the lead, it very much seemed he had the race under control, and there really wasn't much room for imagination.
No, I agree. I mean, throughout the main, I never really at any point was concerned that Kenny was going to lose it. And I don't know if it's foreshadowing. I mean, we'll probably talk about it in a second with the situation with Larry Brooks finally being announced the morning of the race. I remember running into a few people on the floor, and people were talking about it. Is it going to be a Tomac night? Is it this? And even after qualifying, he raced, I'm like, I just have this feeling that kind of that perfect like story part of it. Like Kenny loves this place. Kenny does well here. There's a certain chip on the shoulder to perform and dedicate that and put that story out there. I'm like, it's going to be his night. And based on the way the main started, I was like, yep, the narrative is falling perfectly into place. This is Kenny's race.
I was quite surprised after the race that he said he really did need this, maybe more than we realized. I think the run of podiums, the run of no wins. I mean, it was only 4 weeks, but it does seem like it was eating away at him a little more than most of us would have presumed, which I like it when a rider, admits to that.
No, I agree. And I don't know, we sit on this pod all the time and just even private conversations discussing what we think a rider's season needs to look like and how it pan out. And again, we've talked about it, but I think everybody's been kind of in this set of mind that, this is the best shot that Kenny's had at being in the championship for years based on his preseason form and how things have developed and where his competition's at. And a lot of us felt like wins needed to come early in the season for Kenny this time. And I maybe he feels very similar to our outlook on it. Like, hey, it's great. We've had a lot of good consistent results here, but if he wants to really stay in this the whole round, he needed to crack one off. So I'm sure, yeah, very much the monkey off the back, weight off the shoulders. I'm sure he's like anybody, he's been wanting this.
It is the earliest that he's won on a Suzuki, which is a bit of a surprise
Hmm.
because, I mean, Indy's late all the time. Daytona was late last year. I guess the only real surprise is that Glendale 24 was a week later than on this occasion. And to my earlier point, he had the fastest lap of the race by over half a second. Like, this
Hmm.
was Kenny through and through. There was absolutely no doubt that this was his. And I think I think that maybe you could argue that's different to any of his wins on a Suzuki thus far in its
No, I
current
would.
era, not
No,
RCH, of course.
yeah, no, I completely agree. That was, yeah, especially since Ken has gone to Suzuki, even after the injury at Honda, that was the most probably complete. But like you said, just you don't want to use the word easy, but easiest win. Just everything fell into place, and he did the job, and he looked amazing across the night. There wasn't really a question mark.
We should touch on the Larry Brooks situation. So, diagnosed with cancer, but caught relatively early. Of course, it's terrible, but the prognosis is perhaps not as bad as it could be, let's say. I think everyone's quite optimistic about the road ahead. But as you said, just a nice time for Kenny to win. If there was a time to get a win, it was on this weekend on the back of this unfortunate news.
Yeah. If anybody wants to hear a little more about it, in the post race media scrum, I've known, like many people in the industry, I've known Larry a long time. From my time at work, Ross Made is very close with him. I've spent plenty of time with him. He's absolutely one of my favorite people at the races to speak to. So I really wanted to tee Kenny up in the media scrum about his relationship with Larry, and he basically said Larry's like a second dad to him. And we pulled that clip. It's on our social media, or you can hit our YouTube or anything that's that post media scrum, and you can hear Kenny spend a good 5-6 minutes talking about Larry and how they work together, and again what he means to him beyond just a team manager. So, like I say, he specifically said he's in his opinion the best team manager, like that kind of person he's dealt with for himself, and then he did say that it is really close to his heart that him and Larry basically built this part of the program, the and got Suzuki back on top together. He said that holds a very special place in his heart as one of the biggest achievements of his career.
Yeah, congrats to everyone involved on that team. Kenny, of course, and Fox Racing as well, because not only did they get their first 450SX win of the season, they swept the 250 podium once again. And that's almost not even a headline item anymore because it's becoming the norm for Fox Racing. The second nature athletes have it, the ability to make split second decisions based entirely on feel, impulse, and intuition, to know exactly where their body exists in time and space, sensing the smallest shift in terrain and adjusting without thought. Some call it race instinct, but to them, it's just second nature. Awaken your senses with vision, awareness, and diffuse. Fox Racing's collection of limited edition moto kits releasing this spring, beginning with the Vision limited edition kit that you all saw at Anaheim 1. Visit foxracing.com to learn more. Let's jump right into this. So, quite a big shake-up championship-wise. Eli Tomac is no longer the red plate holder. That is Hunter Lawrence. We'll get to him momentarily. Eli Tomac has dropped to third. Of course, quite the swing from where he was. That's also helped Coop bring himself back into the picture, but it's also helped Chase not lose as much as he should have been losing, essentially. Where do you sit championship wise at the moment?
It's yeah, God, as we say. I mean, this goes back to a week or two ago. You start to think things are going one way, and that's a part of this being still so early in the championship. Eli having technically two back to back bad weeks. Um, I still sit with it, of course, like based on consistent, even though he's had two bad rounds, based on consistency of qualifying starts and how his speed and performance is relative. I still think Eli is somewhat the strongest competitor in the group currently. Hunter is, of course, we all expect it. Like when we were doing the preseason show, we said like, hey, yes, Hunter, we weren't going to name him a title contender right away, but it's completely possible, and he, of course, can grow into, and he has amazingly, of course. Webb is clawing his way back in. It doesn't. Even look at the point spread. I mean, I still, it really feels like it's Eli, Hunter, and Webb are the three I have the most confidence in. Kenny definitely is improving in terms of what I think like his ability to run through this is, and then Chase, I'm scratching my head still a bit. So
Yeah, I think the best place to start with this conversation is it's too close to call, which is brilliant. Because remember,
Mhm.
round five last year was Tampa. So by this point, we'd lost Jet. We'd lost
yeah,
Eli now. Malcolm had just won. But realistically, it was round five last year where it very much became
the
Coop
Chase
versus
Webb.
Chase.
Yeah,
And we're now past round five and we're effectively in Anaheim 1 mode. Nobody
Bas-
knows.
yeah,
And it's even
basically
set
even
up better because, in my opinion, still, I mean, it's starting to become a shaky foundation, but in my opinion, Eli, Coop, and Chase are still the big dogs in this class. So to have it Hunter and Kenny on top almost makes it a little more intriguing and makes it perceived as maybe more of a level playing field, which maybe it's not. Hunter's now got a 5 point advantage, and with his consistency, maybe this just grows and grows and grows and grows. But at least on a surface level, with what we know, what we believe is true, it does feel right now like it is basically even across the top five.
yeah. Hunter's position is so crazy too, because on one hand, you think racing, you're like, well, you can't get second every weekend. Well, you can when the same guy can't win over and over and over. Um, there's a fact so far of just Hunter not really having that like I mean, going down his A1 was the best A1 he's ever had, and it is right now his worst race of the year. I, of course, going back to before we started the beginning of the Triple Crown last weekend, it was like, well, Eli's bad race hasn't been that bad yet, and it's going to happen to everybody at some point. But so far, Hunter looks like he's mitigating, the issues, the bad nights. I mean, he's just putting together such solid results. But you also have the track record of Coop and Eli and Chase, who have all been able to go on win streaks and dig themselves out of holes and things like that. So, like I say, it leaves it very wide open, which is nice. After we've had the last couple years of the championship, we've had some really good head to head, but they play out very early in the season. So to be going into round six with pretty much five people going, well, any of these guys still can do it. So, and at the rate we're going a little bit with Eli start season has now also been mitigated is it doesn't seem like we're gonna get a quick answer even in the next couple weeks. It feels like unless somebody has something really like just a full technical DNF or something, it will even the worst of these five guys, it'll take them a while to drop out of it. It feels like we're gonna be here for a few more weeks before we really start to narrow it down.
Yeah, no one has momentum, is the
Yes.
long and short of it. Eli did have, and now certainly does not. And whilst
Oh yeah.
Hunter's consistency equals some form of momentum, the fact that it hasn't been a win at any point, in my mind, doesn't give him a mental one up on the competition. So, and to Hunter, absolutely insane. First of all of the active riders, no one else has ever had 4 second places in a row in their career, Supercross wise, which points to the fact that it's quite rare to string together second places so consistently. And then the fact that four different winners have beaten him in that run is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. But let me ask you this: after San Diego, which was Hunter's first, let's say, breakthrough, we were all very high on Hunter. The result hasn't changed. So are you still as high on Hunter? Or has the effect of this type of performance, which we've now seen 4 times, has it been diminished by its regular appearance, let's say?
No, especially because, touching a little bit on this weekend, he was pretty straight up. And I mean, you could see it where he's like, hey, I was just flat at the 10-minute mark last couple rounds. I've been able to remount a charge. He just said flat out this week he wasn't there for that. And talking to him post race scrum, just like his comment on, hey, the biggest place I can improve is in the first 10 minutes. And he basically said, we're just trying to get the bike still to a point. He goes, I've spent the first 10 minutes figuring out what the bike will do on that track before I push. He goes, I don't feel like I can send it right out of the gate because I don't know exactly what's going to happen. He goes, if we can get a little bit more, he goes, if I can get to where the bike in the first 10 minutes, I already know what it's going to do. He, feels like he can push that pace he's had in the second half in a lot of races. So to circle back, No, I'm still impressed because I still think it's such a it's just been so solid for him so far. And again, with where Bess is going through, and everybody has their path to win in this and keep winning. But when I see that with Hunter and hear what he's saying, I'm like, okay, your path seems fairly clear to start turning these seconds into wins. And I don't think it still feels like we're not that far off of it happening. In some people's outside perspective, this weekend might have diminished that because of the second place results. It was the one where he showed the least competitiveness for the win, but it's again, it's so close based on the other ones and what he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, and the way that Glendale shook out after lap one, where it was just Hunter versus Kenny and Coop, Glendale would have been the easiest win to grab, let's say. But then it is also a kind of a known but not talked about enough fact that maybe Jet and Hunter with the Honda 450, their least comfortable surface is the slick, hard pack sort of place. So maybe it's not so surprising after all. I think the bigger surprise is that Hunter's late race charges, which are now sort of set in stone and known, combined with Kenny's tendency to maybe not finish as strong, it's surprising that those two factors didn't play out. Like
Yeah.
neither norm eventualized.
No, I agree. Even though I'm going to contradict myself here a little bit, where I said even at the beginning of the main, I'm like, this is Kenny's night, and I felt that again just with the storyline and just the feel goodness to it. There was back of mind concern of okay, we're at the beginning, we have Hunter, who has proven to be very strong in the second half behind him, and that's where Kenny's been a little bit weaker. And of course, just Coop in general. You can't count Coop out, even though he was sitting third, and in the early portion, it didn't look like he had the pace. I mean, there was still that. Well, we could hit the end, and this could be also the sadly tragic end that we've seen to some of Ken's near wins, where one of these two will pip him right at the end, and it ultimately did not play out that way. Like you said, on one hand, on paper, it looked like, oh, this is going to be really interesting, but it kind of didn't unfold that way whatsoever.
Who ends the season with more main event wins, Hunter or Kenny? Great question.
Ooh.
And remember,
Oh,
Kenny has never won. Again, I keep saying that, almost dismissing the RCH times. Since he returned to Suzuki, he's not
yeah.
won more than one main event a year.
Oh. Mm.
I could see them both ending on like two.
Two. Two is what's in my mind. I can't see Ken not getting another one this year. And in the same breath, between, if Eli bounces back from this weekend and goes back to getting multiple wins, and if Chase gets himself in that place, like, not to say it's negatively, like, and I still say this, I could see Hunter only getting, two wins, and only is a weird word to say because one of them would be his first ever on a 450, and still going down to the wire in terms of the championship. So, I ever so slightly lean Hunter, but if so, I'm similar with you. It's either they both get two, or one of them gets three, and the other gets two. I think it's gonna be ridiculously close.
But yet you still feel confident that Eli Coop and Chase have more wins than those riders.
I mean, more
Championship
comp.
predictions aside, just main
Eli and
event wins.
Chase, yes. Even Coop could be in that 2 or 3 number. I mean, I see that whole group, whether we're talking about Coop or Hunter, them. I see a lot of them in that similar range. The only two I think that will really break out of that is Eli or Chase. That will be a noticeable number from the others, more than 2 win difference than everybody else's total. At least right now, it feels like they will all have a close one. But again, things can drastically play out in a couple weeks. But if things kind of trend the way they've been trending, I feel like, yeah, we're going to have a pretty weird even spread on winners, how many they have each.
I'm perhaps higher on Coop's Glendale than most. I mean, of course, we know it's not his favourite venue. But in the heat
Yeah.
race, I felt like he was very spicy early on, moving forward. And even in the main event, the first couple of laps were weird because Hunter was actually pulling away a little bit. And Coop was aggressive. He was the aggressor
Yeah.
of the trio. And then in the blink of an eye, Kenny had the lead in a gap. Cooper dropped back a little bit, and we'd kind of stabilized the situation in contrast to the way it seemed to be going. But for a split second, Coop was the aggressor in that trio, and I think I'm holding on to that as yet another positive instance of Coop's riding and situation and championship prospects and whatever else.
No, I agree. In general, Coop across the day just looked feistier Like this comes down to just in listening to him throttle inputs, how hard and how aggressive he was being in areas. Just he seemed like I said, Glendale. He definitely noted it after the race. Like this is probably his least favorite race of the year. He's on one hand, somebody might look at and go, "Oh, well, he won last week and he needs to get back in this to lose the opportunity for a win when Eli and Chase have bad nights. Like, is he going to be frustrated?" He seemed very content and happy with that third, very happy with his riding because again, I think that is one of the least that is potentially the least coupe-like track you will see all year. So no, I agree with you that I'm high on his riding, even though he won last week and he didn't back it up. I feel in a sense that his momentum has been carried from the last, through Glendale. He has carried the momentum.
Yeah, basically, any questions that came from the first couple of rounds, any doubts, they are, in my opinion at least, firmly in the rearview mirror. I think that's safe to say. And from one coupe to another, J Coupe was fourth, and he had a good start, but maybe the most telling statistic, it's not even a statistic, his heat race start was good as well. So that points to the fact that it was less of a flash in the pan and maybe some sort of breakthrough or beginning of a trend. But in talking to guys at Yamaha, J Coupe himself, I think we've all come to the conclusion that his starts are mental at this point, and that's
Here,
kind of the beginning and the end of it.
I have a conclusion. He seemed to ride very well this weekend because it kept starting with his training partner Cooper Webb. So I can't remember what is after. I think it was the heat where he was really good. Somebody mentioned it as we're all running to the podium, and I said, "Yeah, I think he blacked out and thought he was just at the goat farm riding with Webb again." Let just
Well, even to that, you've got to give him his dues. Like in the heat,
yeah.
he passed Coop.
Oh
Like he
yeah,
got to Coop.
yeah.
Again, insert every other J Coop conversation where there are these moments that are amazing and would lead you to believe he's the one to bet on for the future. There are also these moments that indicate that he's a
Yeah.
lost cause.
I
It's
I thought
bizarre.
across the night he looked fantastic. Other than there was one thing, and this is more from in practice. He fixed it a bit for the race. You come off the double that goes across the start line into the whoops, and the whoops are still the interesting thing for him. You could literally physically see him slow down before the whoops, where everybody else and your top guys in 450 are carrying the front tire to the third whoop. And I'm looking at Jake the rest of the track like he looks great tonight. Comes over that and then just checks up like a I hate to say it, a 15th place privateer going into. I'm like, oh, okay, there's our spot we still are a little off on.
Didn't jump though.
We
So
did not jump. Yes, we did not jump.
okay, Jorge Prado, fifth place. He wins the main event this year. I'm done. I'm there. I don't need to talk about it. I don't need to explain myself. Jorge Prado wins, and maybe it's a mudder. Who knows how.
Maybe it's
He,
this next weekend.
but
Seattle.
yeah, but I'm less Jorge could do it in the right circumstances. I'm more if you tell me the Jorge whole shots any weekend and then just wins, I'm not necessarily flawed anymore. It kind of seems realistic, right?
Yes, the only thing I'll say is there's a part in the back of my mind just based off his riding style, heavy rear steer. I still really and because even based off last season on the sampling we saw, I want to see him on how he handles a very rutted East Coast Supercross. That's still a question mark for me. Is if the progress we've seen, if that carries over there, if there's like, I hate to say like a little bit of a reset when we go east, if it he has to learn that, if it knocks him back a notch or two and he has to get back in it. Um, the thing I was thinking about all weekend was like we talked about this endlessly. He is a multi-time world champion. He's one of the most talented out there. Like he's gonna figure it out. Even though this year so far has been impressive, I am still, as I was leaving last night, feeling like that. Like, okay, I am now not going to be shocked if he wins a race. The part of it is not that he's going to do it. The shocking part is more the evaluation of him after last year. I knew he would get there in a year or two. I just, going this season, I didn't expect it this year. I'm thoroughly impressed like you said, you watch him last year, he looked like he was riding Supercross. He looks like he's racing like a guy who's been racing Supercross for 5, 6, 7 years. And let's get back to our part. He's pretty freaking good in the whoops now.
Arguably one of the top three guys in the
Best.
whoops.
One of the best. Again, the section I'm talking about off that double, carrying the front to the third, just sending it.
And let's not forget, dream big, everyone, because it was only August. where he couldn't make the 40-man gate of an outdoor, and now he's on pole at a Supercross. So if he can do it, I don't know who was 38th and 42nd and 44th at Budds Creek that day, but if he can do it, why not you? And that is maybe the most inspirational message that I could ever put onto the privateer contingent. But Prado as well, actually, speaking of Fox Racing, his gear looked very good this weekend. I enjoyed the
Yes.
entire ensemble. Of course, it goes a little bit in with the DeCal Works graphics as well. And you know, if you want to make your kit and your graphics sing in unison when you go riding, you can head to decalmx.com and get your own customizable graphics, make them look however you want. Maybe you have a set of Fox Racing gear and you feel like you can maybe blend your body into the bike a little bit, get a bit creative. Well, DeCalMX has the ability to let you, you know, flush out your creative juices thanks to their incredible staff system technology, whatever else. DecalMX.com. Savachi is just a top six rider now. He's one of the best of the rest. He's in the Anderson Prado group. There's really not much to say there. On to Chase. So, so
Where,
I think
how
the
do we start this?
I think the headline here, I think this is the headline. One podium in 5 rounds is no bueno. And yes, it was a win, which helps a little bit. But surface level, one podium in 5 rounds, that's not good. That points to issues. Like, that's not good. And again, I understand that the fact it's a win helps. It does.
Yes.
But I still don't think it's a great place to be. And I mean, you look at any other 450 season he's had, KTM the first year when he was going around the whoops all off season. He had, I think, 3 podiums in the first 5 rounds that year, certainly 2 at least. So that would be my headline item with Chase of like, I don't know about that. More Glendale specific, he was a tiny bit sick.
Half the
But,
field sick.
but I spoke to him and he said it was no excuse, like he's fine.
Yeah.
He said, in fact, he said he was better on Saturday than he was Friday, so he was actually getting better, if nothing else. Still testing, still a lot to do. To the naked eye, it still seems that turning is a problem. And to be honest with you, rare to say this, but from the very first lap of practice to the very last lap of the main event, I'm not sure he ever looked like Chase. It just looked, I don't want to say difficult, but it looked, and I don't want to say uncomfortable either. It looked like hard work for him. And Chase, as
Well,
we
I was
know,
gonna
is
say,
typically poetry in motion.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say a little of both, like hard work, as in it's not being strung together, but also like a man riding at 80, like cannot get anything going. Like the rhythms wouldn't come together. Nothing about the sections would come together. Like I said, I hate to say because even it's some of Chase's worst. There hasn't been a lot of races where from first practice on, I'm already like, yep, this is not happening tonight. It's just not there. I hate to throw. I'm going to say this because I said this to you when we were leaving the stadium. My other headline is this: we went from getting somebody set up, Levi's basically, and having a great race to we have now tested for weeks straight, late every night. The team is telling us, and it's, this is a surface level looking results. I'm not saying, I understand if the feeling or what their feedback is there, but on paper, we have tested repeatedly for weeks and we have gone worse than the round where we were just basically handed something and went racing. That is not a good look. That is not a good look.
Is that not a good look for Chase, or is that not a good look for Cowie, or both? Do they
Both.
share that, or okay?
Both. Well, one example, I talked to somebody on the team this weekend and I said, what was worked on this week? And they basically said a little bit of everything, but nothing too major. And I said, well, what are we looking for? And they said a feeling. And I probably said turning. And they were like, no, just a feeling. I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, Chase is looking for a feeling and we're trying to find it. And I said, what is that feeling? They're like, is it, and I was asking, is it somewhere specific on the bike? Is it specific? They're like, nope, it's just a feeling in the whole bike. And we're trying to find the feeling. And I'm like, okay. Okay, cool. I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to feel about the feeling.
Well, and equally, when do you see Chase in P7? in any instance. If you pull up the results, if you're in Europe and you don't get to watch the race live and you wake up Sunday morning and the first thing you do is pull up the results, you see Chase in P7 and your mind goes, well, he
He face
crashed.
planted.
Yeah. So, oh, something must have happened. Like it's just Glendale is almost. I'm struck. I'm really trying to think of another race for Chase like that where there isn't really anything to say. It was just outside the top five, and I am struggling to come up with one. But um, two two instances of journalist of the century. One related to this, and one less so. One. You may notice the people who are angry about my background, congrats, you've got a lot more behind me this time. It's because I'm in Cali, because our dear friends at Kawasaki, full credit to them, invited me to stay out and come to the race shop to like just to kind of like learn what abilities they have, see how they work, just see what they've got going on. Almost similar. I feel like this is quite common for media in F1 and MotoGP and whatnot. So with that in mind, I would hope, all being well, it happens and everything. I would hope that I would come to next week's podcast with some little tidbits and information and whatnot. So that's good. Second journalist of the century. You may remember the Anaheim 2 interview with Chase, where he was very angry that he was stopped by fans after track walk, and this was a real point of contention. Well, like a real news reporter who's down getting the beat with the people, I found the fan that stopped him after track walk, found out why they were in the pits so early, because that was Feld's point, was like, well, the pits, and Chase's as well, actually. Like, why are fans in the pits that early? And I was really, I mean, I didn't do anything for it. The fan found me. But still, I was like, wow, this is real journalism. And I'll tell you. So the AMA, is it new for this year, these guest passes?
No, they've been around for literally ever.
Okay, well, no one knows that. So you can, if you've got a hard card, you can essentially buy a guest pass from the AMA or Feld. Who is it? The AMA?
It's technically from Feld. It used to be
I was
more
told the
directly
AMA
through the
on
AMA.
Saturday. So
Yeah, it used to be more AMA. Now it's directly through Feld.
okay, so like I could get one for someone, which means that like, hey, buddy, come on in. You're getting more fan people, less industry. And that is where the fans are stopping people after track walk. And also, on the other side, the fans who are getting autographs while we're doing interviews when the pits are closed, that is where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So really got to the bottom of that. I'm not sure anyone was waiting for that information.
Well, I was laughing because after the press scrum and me and Sean offload our photo and video assets, we got a text that you had finished up with interviews. So we wandered out thinking, oh, we're going to find Lewis at the rental car, or Lewis over chatting to to a mechanic or somebody or a rider that's getting ready to leave. We know, I knew I wouldn't find you with your recorder. I knew you said you'd gone through your workload, but nope. Lo and behold, I come out and I find Lewis talking to two fans in the pits.
Yep.
Surrounded by teams, surrounded by industry, and this man is getting to the bottom of it. I was very confused until we walked away and you told me that's the one, that's the fan from the Chase track walk. I was like, oh.
Getting the exclusive, and no, I'm certain. I'm like a million. I've never been more sure, but no other media has this story. So there you go. And I've already passed it on to Feld, because Feld were genuinely curious. Like they were like, yeah, we're also confused how fans are even stopping Chase after track walk. So this golden goose of information, I've shared it with everyone, and this is, everyone wants to talk to the 450XX winner. No one's doing this sort of beat level reporting.
Wait, question, because I never even asked you this yet. What did the fans say when you told, were they aware from the whole that Chase was frustrated?
Yeah, they said it. They said, this is me. It was me. I was like, ah.
Okay.
They probably listened to this. They said they listened to everything. Big fan. I mean, they also,
yes,
I think they love the Chase interviews, but everyone does. But that's the least important part of Chase. But I felt like, why'd you go to the race?
Great sidebar.
Insight like this. Similar to what we were saying about Coop early in the season, Seattle is a must podium for Chase at bare minimum. I mean, third place isn't exactly fixing anything, but at least it's like some sort of sign of positivity, right? We can't have another fifth place, a seventh place.
It's what's still crazy though is I'm just sitting here, of course, looking at the point spread though is we all agree this is not a good look for Chase. However, he still is only is he only 2 points behind Coop in the grand scheme of things or no?
Yeah.
That is shocking. That is shocking to look at on paper.
Well,
I
do you
forget.
want to know what my favorite statistic is?
Let's hear it.
This is Lewis's stat of the week. After Anaheim 2, Chase was 17 points down. And I believe he's still 17 points down. How? How is that possible? Like I don't understand. How can you go you win and you're 17 points down and then you
And
go
be off the
5-7
podium
and
the
you're still
rest of the
17 points
race.
down? Like, it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. That is a I mean, but also this will be my I believe Chase has given me the tour of Cowie now. I've requested what Chase. And also, very exciting. Details are coming to me. I hear there's a brand new Chase mannequin. Like, very jazzed up. So I've put in an hour sidebar in the tour for photo opportunities with the mannequin and like um
I hope there's our people present to see what you do with this mannequin. I'm very
journalism.
scared.
Journalism, everyone.
So
This is what the degree is
let,
for.
let me hit you with a closing one for the chasing because I generally trying to wrap my head on this part. So they said it's very weird to compare to the first year at KTM because the first year at KTM, which I think not verbally, but we were much more aware it was an issue in terms of the feedback, the way he would talk about the bike, the visual frustration or the comments. Not that it was, of course, it digressed from there, but even how it started, like he was, you could tell much more in the way he would talk about it and not such a good place with it. Where everything from the Cowie side seems like, the team's very happy to work with him. He seems happy in a way, at least outwardly. And I know you said a big goal this year is positivity, etc. But when it's also, like I said, it seemed like KTM was much more lost on the bike, and but the results were still somewhat coming. Where Cowie, I'm more confused. Is it what I'm getting at? Is this better or worse? Is it better because everybody's demeanor is really good, or is it worse because everything on paper this should be better, but we're a little lost, and it's maybe not as easy to button down why. Where with KTM, it seemed a little more obvious on what was wrong, even though they couldn't solve the problem. Like what was wrong was more glaringly obvious.
Well, going back to what you said, I again, very surface level, I look at it as, oh, we're searching for a feeling. The fact that there's a belief that this magical feeling is there is a good sign of the general feeling about the potential of the package and everything. Whereas I would say at KTM that first year, they were never searching for this feeling. They were searching for something that works. You know? Like, so I feel like the searching at Cowie almost comes from a place of this can be really good. Whereas I don't know if we were ever in that place with KTM.
Well, so I get that, and the curious part that pops up for me is so at KTM, yes, we were to put bluntly lost, like we had no feeling. We hit Daytona, we get the KYB conversion parts, which was basically, so I mentioned this on one of the What I Learned on Fridays is kind of weird scenario that this played out twice is, his current direction with Cowie was basically off a Levi setting where the stuff that he had at KTM was basically Justin Hill's stuff from Tedder. They get that and then they ran with it for a while. They did test against it, but not, it didn't seem like immediately. They found something that quote unquote worked. And because maybe this is almost like a good or bad, like KTM never had the feeling. So once we got something that worked, maybe we just kind of ran with it because there was no hope of finding the feeling. Where Cowie, we feel like the feeling's there. So the glimpse is there. We got something that you could argue. Again, it's one sample sizing, so it's so hard to stamp this, but say we had something that worked, but now we're so busy trying to chase the feeling because we know it's there. Is that going to take up too long where, he's there for 3 years? Ultimately, this could extremely pay off in the long run. I hate to say it. Let's say this championship gets somewhat wasted. It takes us half the season or more to finally narrow it down. It could somewhat wipe this out where you could say, oh, well, maybe if they would have gone with what worked and just stuck it out, maybe he would be in this a little more. but the long run it could pay off. There's so much like that going through my head that's just got jumbled right now of like on one hand you could argue is this a good idea the way they're going about this? But you could because if he thinks the feeling's there and they're going to get there, it could be really good in the long run, but it might blow it in the short run.
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment that sometimes belief. I mean, we will be rehashing this conversation once we get to 250s because
Yeah.
Chase has a twin, so we're gonna have to
Levi.
do this again. No, no, no,
No,
no,
Levi?
no.
Oh,
Uh,
Max.
we have a twin, so we're
Wait,
gonna
why?
have to.
I was going to bring that up. They're both your people, which is concerning.
Honestly, I don't know if Max liked this, but I sent him a message at midnight last night, and I said, "Look, you are Chase. Like, neither of you can get a start for the life of you." Also, we didn't mention this again. No fucking idea what Chase is doing out the gate. No idea.
Hey, but Vince Friese is getting whole shots on a privateer
It's
Cowie.
possible. It's possible that job swap is happening because they want me to do starts in the main events, just to see if that fixes things. But we'll do this now. Chase and Max. Neither of them can get a start to save their lives at the moment, which is weird because they have both gotten lots of whole shots in the past. Both of them are testing every single week. Every single week. Just this and this. Both of them are doing that. What was my other thing? Both of them are lost. Both of them have one podium this year. Both was a win. That's the other thing.
And they're both tied to you.
And they have both left Glendale dejected. I can tell you that because I spoke to both of them. So
Have you put them on a group chat together yet?
no, honestly, like, it's actually really weird. Like it's actually really like but their situations. I'm not even joking. Their situations are identical. I really, and Max has maybe had a come to Jesus moment sooner because he did say in my interview last night. I can't remember the exact quote, but essentially he went, every single week I'm just testing, and maybe constantly testing isn't a good thing. And I'm like, and then actually in the interview I stopped him and I went, "Oh my God, you're Chase." And I said that in the interview because I was like, fuck me, this is like eerie. Also, in the department of Lewis is an absolute idiot, which I hate to admit, but I've kind of got to. It turns out, well, actually, let's look here. Yeah, it turns out Chase was 13 points down after Anaheim 2. And with the way the results are updated now, if you go back to Anaheim 2, the championship standings just show you after Glendale. They don't show you championship standings each week.
Yeah.
So I'm an idiot. But I guess the point still stands, but like he won Anaheim 2 and was 13 down, and he's only lost 4 points. Still kind of the same sentiment. Okay, good.
Yeah. No, the point still stands. I know what you mean.
Good. Just not quite as funny as it was. Like less crazy now. But anyway, Seattle will be big. That is certain. AP, more Chase talk. I have no idea what was going on between Chase and AP, but they were joined at the hip. Heat race, main event, they were doing some sort of photo shoot, I'm led to believe, because they never left each other's side. And that was bizarre in itself.
I have photos in 3 different corners where Aaron physically ran into Chase. They were that close.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about, but AP actually was ripping all day. I said this to him after the race, and it's maybe an overstatement, but I almost don't believe so. Easily one of his best supercrosses on a 450 ever, in my mind, just from a pure riding point of view. Like, the start killed him, and honestly, Chase probably held him up, but he looked good. Really good, really feisty. And I think if he starts with the leaders, he's podium easy, without doubt, right?
Yeah, his best lap time puts him in that top 3 to 5 range easily while coming through the pack.
That's another point with Chase. 10th fastest lap of the race, rare for Chase. But somehow the fastest in sectors 1 and 2 and second in sector 3. So that would point to whatever we're not feeling on the bike is all on the second half of the track. And I stared at the track map for a long time and couldn't see why he would be so fast in the first half and not in the second.
Where does sector 3 end?
The whoops? Yeah, around the whoops.
So the 2 huge rhythm lanes afterwards just...
Yeah, but how's that any different to the rhythm after the finish, If he's fastest in the rhythm after the finish, why would he be nowhere in the rhythm after the whoops,
The rhythms, the far two side rhythms, I thought were way not like you looked at to get through them fast. They seemed very tight. A lot of trying to think how to describe it. The way you would pump through them, the transitions looked real steep, real tight, like just really small margin of error to get thrown off if you were really trying to pump through them.
Well, we spoke about AP there. He, of course, uses Motorex. Motorex, known for high quality engine oils, also has an entire line of clean care and lube products to keep your bike running strong and looking great. Maintenance made easy with race proven Motorex clean care and lube products. Thank you to those guys for their support. Let's rattle off 450s here. Um, well, let's talk about Eli. Here we go again. Another long winded discussion. I'll be honest, and I do believe that I am a little bit. My initial reaction to stuff is maybe a little bit on the dramatic side. I'll hold my hands up with that. But in the split second where he got up, I was like, he's not getting back in the race because he
Oh,
looked
100%.
beat up.
Yeah.
Obviously he's fine to a degree, but I was certain he was done, especially the way he was limping, and then my mind immediately went to, is that the Achilles leg? Is that a problem? But ultimately, it turns out that he just needed a couple of laps to warm up, loosen up, and then he was semi-fine. I mean, I still don't. At no point when he was coming through the field was I like, Eli's ripping right now. The speed from the heat and the qualifying wasn't there still, but he was still. There wasn't really cause for concern.
Fastest lap was lap 19, I believe.
Yeah, it took a while.
It did.
Warmed up.
He started to do, I guess somebody say he started to do one of the big quads again towards the end. But yeah, I was standing head on the first corner, so looking through the lens, I missed most of the crash. But if you look through our, I was like, I'm shooting him standing up, and literally in my head, I'm watching him through the viewfinder. Like his bike is wide open on the ground, by the way. I don't know if that gets brought up on TV. The bike is wide open, laying there, and everybody else has gathered himself up, and he's kind of, yeah, he takes like a step or two and pauses for a second. He is physically looking at the bike wide open, and I'm like, he's not hurrying to this thing. Oh no. Oh no, this is not good. And I know, like, watching the playback on TV, it's not as long as it felt being on the floor, but it's enough to make you feel like this is it. We've got something's happened. He's going to ride around. And even that first lap, he was just doubling around, kind of hit some of the rhythms. I'm like, oh, lap or two, and he's going to pull off. And then still took him till he got back to the pack to get a toe going. And then, like I said, there for the first couple laps, like, wow, he's going to get only a couple points out of this. And finally, after the 10-minute mark, it started to really come together.
Yeah, quietly, round five is terrible for him because this also came to mind. Tampa, again, was round five last year. And I don't know what happened at round five in 2024, but he was 10th there. So the last couple of round fives, he's gone 10, whatever he did in Tampa, 20 or whatever that was, and then 12. Weird. Little buckamaboo there for Eli, for whatever reason. But yeah, okay, so Houston was kind of rough. I mean, ultimately, it wasn't big picture, but it was. Glendale was rough. This doesn't impact my perception of Eli at all. Like I'm kind of like, yeah, shit happens. Eli's still really good, and my enthusiasm for how he started the season isn't waning based on Houston and
No,
Glendale.
no, even though it's been two back to backs, like I said at the beginning, like if you had to put a gun to my head and ask me for a title favorite right now, it's still him. This again, yes, we were a little off on the starts, but as a whole, his starts are amazing. His qualifying's been great. His heat races have been great. Um, he looks good on a bunch of different surfaces. He hasn't really struggled with the bike, it seems like, at all yet. So yes, keep it going. This sucks on paper for him. It doesn't concern me whatsoever.
Yeah, quote of the day from Ian Harrison, speaking of the bike, is that he needs to wake up the suspension guys a little bit because they are doing so much less work than they were with Coop and then Chase. But everyone's getting a little bit sleepy,
A little too
a little bit
comfortable.
bored, a little bit too relaxed, maybe vacation mode, tiny bit. They may even send less staff to Seattle. Who knew? They might realize that they don't actually need all these people after all. But no, yeah, no reason to really be concerned about Eli at all. I think that's safe to say. I'm going to give Eli the benefit of the doubt because isolated, his quote, "I was taken out by Christian Craig," is very like, what the fuck? But then the way he goes on to explain it, I think it was just a poor choice of words. I don't think he literally meant Christian Craig just took me out. What an idiot.
His bike took me out when I hit it.
Yeah, like because you watch the video
Yeah.
and Craig was
Yeah.
actually going down for quite a while. Like
Yes.
it was like a slow motion
You see him get
fall.
really off balance, and it's one of those crashes that takes 5 seconds to actually
Yeah,
happen.
like when I watched Eli's TV interview and I heard like, yeah, Craig took me out, I was immediately like, oh, whoa, what? And then the way he went on to explain it was a little gentler. So I think it was just a poor choice of words, is my take. But that was a little bit of a topic, let's say, online I saw. Let's end 450s by talking about Husky. So RJ was sick, and you know, most of the time these riders race through sickness. So you can imagine how sick he must have been, especially RJ. Like to keep RJ off the track, there would be a serious issue. And then Malcolm, I saw him crash 4 times in the main event before he eventually pulled off. Now I believe he's okay. Both riders should be in Seattle. But quietly, this underlines the fact that for the most part, Husky is quite a luckless team, I would say. Agreed?
Yeah, it's the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. Of course, they've had plenty of 250 titles. They've had the 450 title. But it seems like everything in between is not. It's either great with one guy and the rest of it. I mean, joking with Jacob Johnson, the guys that filmed the Grit and Grind series, where I'm always joking with them about having to make up storylines. They don't, because it just seems like everybody's always going through shit over there. Like it's not just one guy on the team. Multiple people on that team are going through some shit.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, like, but I do just feel like of all the teams, they are just, I mean, of all the factory teams, their lives are a little more of a roller coaster than others, which is tough for them. I mean, for the most part, you could say that RJ on a 250 was kind of the main bright spot, like that kind of kept it going in a positive direction. Um, I don't know, bit of a weird one. Anything else 450 wise?
The only one I was going to say about RJ is did you see what happened in first qualifying? What he quoted
Yeah.
about not even be able to ride the bike? Yeah, all of a sudden I just hear panic rev, people yelling, and I just see RJ. I missed the actual crash, but I see RJ riding back to the mechanics area. I'm like, we haven't even done one lap of free practice or of time qualifying, like one lap. And somebody looks at me and goes, yeah, RJ overshot the finish line by like 20 feet straight into the berm.
Yeah,
So
I
we,
didn't see the jump, but I just saw him go flying over the berm after the finish on lap
yeah,
one. Literally, I mean, I don't even know if you call that lap one. I think you
yeah.
technically
It's
call
the
that
lap
lap
where you're
zero.
supposed to barely jump everything. And apparently he landed in the berm from multiple descriptions I heard.
Yeah, as I say,
So
to keep RJ off the bike is really, I mean, look at the Motocross of Nations. So imagine how sick he must have been. Like, it's quite crazy to think about, in all honesty. And from one sick rider to another, but different meanings, haha, Haiden Deegan is, what do you say? Incredible, on another level, untouchable, unbeatable. Exactly what Haiden Deegan should be on a 250. And I guess the only talking point that exists here is, does he win out?
I think on West at the rate where like Levi shows that glimpse, but even Levi said it in the post race press conference because somebody asked him like, "Oh, I bet you wish the race was longer because you would have got him," and he was very much like, "Well, no, like, yeah, so I wish it was longer," because he goes, "I could have caught him," but he's also like, he's out front managing the race. I don't know how hard he was pushing. Um, yeah, I think General West, East West shootouts always throw a wrench into everything. General West, unless something happens, I don't see how he gets beaten. And as I comment on one of our social media posts, and somebody took this as a dig, and I didn't mean it as such, as I said, "What's left to prove? I'm just waiting for 450 time now," and I say that in the best way because coming into the season, we said that hey, he's absolutely been dominant in pro motocross and SMX, but he hasn't been dominant on 215 Supercross, and that's the reason to run it back one more time. Well, he is thoroughly dominant. There's nothing left to prove. Win this out. It's time to race 450s.
Yeah, let's call a spade here. The 250 West class is a tough watch right now. It's there isn't much, and I put that on Twitter, and I got some blowback, of course, from the Deegan fans. It's a tough watch to see a generational rider showing us the best he can do. Like, yeah, it's a race, not a training school. Um, it's a tough. It's a tough watch. The 250 West class. There isn't much going on. Levi's charge was very impressive, but honestly, if you want me to give you five headlines from the West class, I'm going to struggle to get past two, and one of them would just be Deegan's good. So that's where we're at. But congrats to Yamaha. Of course, Deegan isn't perfect in the 2026 250SX West Series because Max Anstie did win round one. But that does at least mean the Yamaha Motor USA are perfect in 250 competition in 2026. A testament, of course, to their machines, the manufacturing going on there, and the type of bike that you can buy yourself. So get on it. Go blue. And I guess a similar question. Okay, Yamaha aren't going to go perfect in 250s because we're going east, and that's a much more level playing field. But Davies, Nate Thrasher, there is some Thrashers flying talk. You know, Yamaha's win total here could continue to climb quite impressively in 250 competition. So, yeah, watch this space. You put it this way: if I'm betting money on which manufacturer is going to have the most 250 wins at the end of the year, I'm putting all my money on Yamaha, and I'm not really concerned. In fact, I may see if someone can take that bet for me, because realistically, that's happening. Um, I'm going to try and say this without getting myself in trouble, which is going to be impossible.
Yep.
Deegan was riding at 70%. Of course. Deegan was dominant. Deegan was amazing. All credit to Deegan. However, Levi Kitchen can take a bow after that ride through the field because he also looked very good. And it's possible to say that about Levi without it taking anything away from Haiden at all. Both of these things can be true at the same time. It's not an either or an or situation. So yes, Haiden was incredible and you cannot say enough good things about him. But equally, very, very, very impressed by how Levi came through the field because he was essentially dead last.
No, agreed. And charged to the absolute end. Intensity was fantastic. Again, the moment where I just sit back and outside of last week where he got started was there, you see that and you're like, well, I'm not saying this because I say beam, just I want to see them start together and have this battle. I just want to see it before West is over at some point because we've already ate up a good amount of the West series and we have not gone that sampling. And I just for pure entertainment sake value, I want to see Levi have that pace and start with Haiden because I also want to see Haiden pushed because he basically has not been pushed this year. He is in such command of the races. I just want to see it happen.
I just I don't think that's ever going to work out because Levi has spent such little time at the front that I think even if he does start with Haiden, he's going to be so rusty and sort of unfamiliar with that position that Hayden's just going to have such the upper hand in the first 10 minutes, you know? Like it
Yeah.
almost needs to happen twice in order for us to get the situation that you're explaining.
Yep.
Um, and I don't know, actually, I haven't watched the kitchen scrum talk yet, but very curious to know if the bad start was a result of a whole shot device issue again. I would presume so.
I can't remember what he said on that. The one thing that was interesting is he just talked about like he basically said that he is reviewing everything. He's taking Ken's advice. I can't remember who else he named off this round. He goes, I'm watching videos that people send me. I'm looking at photos. He basically said it. He's like, I'm trying to learn from the best in the world because he goes, what he say? Something like, I know this is crazy for me to say being up here, being one of the best at this, but I'm pretty like basically he's like, I'm pretty bad at starts. And he goes, it's pretty shocking I've made it this far or something like that. But he even talked about how he just feels like nothing's working for him because he said he's reviewed like, okay, if it goes bad, how do I tackle the first corner? How do I cut down? How do I do this? And he was just kind of like, no
Terrible
matter
place
what
to
he's
be.
trying, he just basically said no matter what he's been trying, it's just been like blowing up in his face.
You can't, I'm strongly of the opinion that you cannot be preparing for a bad start, you know, because if you're doing that, you're lost already. You've lost the battle already. Like, it's similar to Jacob. You can't sit on the line and go, okay, if I get a bad start here, I'm going to cut down there. Because if you're thinking that way, I truly believe that starts are a lot of manifestation and all of that
Oh,
good stuff.
100%. I agree with that heavily as well.
But so Levi and Mitch kind of said Levi's running stiffer forks than ever, and equally the whole shot device is lower than ever, and that's why it was staying stuck on. But equally, Mitch and Levi had never seen this happen before, which is kind of unbelievable to me because it isn't that crazy a set of circumstances. And I don't know. But they were also adamant, I feel fairly adamant, that prior to Glendale it wasn't an issue anymore, which is why I'd quite like to know if it was the whole shot device. But if not, another one for Kawasaki this week, huh? Oh, what a
I
visit.
watched I did watch a replay. He just gets I don't know again, whole shot. He just gets very off balance coming out of the start and instantly gets pinched off like both feet are flailing a little bit and stuff. Just and oh, he did say, sorry, he did talk about it. He did say he thought his jump was a lot better, but who was next? He had Mumford and who else was near him? He basically said that he felt like they got the most ungodly start ever and just it pinched him off.
I don't know. I can't remember. But Levi needs a start. I mean, imagine if
Yeah,
he gets these starts in showdowns. I mean, not that it really matters. He's out at a championship, so who
yeah.
cares? But this is not going to work out long term. So I can imagine it's a point that he's
Who?
quite keen to address.
I'm about to say something stupid. Who's even second? McAdoo's second in points, right? Or is it still Moseman?
I think it's Moserman.
Oh
It's
wow,
not
it still
McAdoo. Yeah,
is.
it's not McAdoo. McAdoo,
Yeah,
obviously.
McAdoo had the I forgot A1 D. Yeah, yeah, it is Mosey. Wow.
I'm also scared to say this, but if something were to happen to Deegan, quite a battle there for second. The points are really close with everyone. 2 points, I think, covering second to fourth,
Yeah.
which is Moserman, Ryder D, and Max. Which again, how Max is fourth in points, I'll never know. But anyway, speaking of McAdoo, another podium. Not much to say, but this Anaheim won aside, this has definitely been a success, without doubt. And I think just the fact that since Anaheim won, he's gone 2-4-3-3 is deserving of credit and props because that's exactly what we all wanted to see from him. So good job, great work. Fair?
Fair.
On the other side of the coin, I felt like Glendale was a little bit disappointing for Ryder D because he's also struggled with starts at points this year, and he had a good one and just didn't quite capitalize on it. He said he was struggling with bike setup, so it wasn't overly comfortable, but it did feel like this was maybe an opportunity that passed him by. Not to win, of course, but for a
But just
second.
to improve and
Yeah.
continue forward. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's had a second yet, has he? His two podiums this year have been third places. So, Volan's sick. He said he's been sick since Anaheim 2, but he feels like he's finally getting over it. Yoda's been sick as well, so just a pool of sickness over there at Club MX, and not the good kind, unfortunately. But another Yamaha team, more Yamaha 250s representing in the top 8, which brings us to Anstie, and we kind of spoke about him, but I had a lot of requests for us to talk about him on this podcast. So actually, I guess we didn't talk about him because all we did was compare him to Chase, which isn't really talking about him. So he said, first and foremost, that he forgot to put his start map on the line for the main event, which, as I pointed out to him in the interview again, if you're forgetting to put your start map on, we're like you're fried. Like your head's not in it. That's a bad place to be because that means that you're sat there and your head's somewhere else. But again, so I mean, he said he wasn't sure, but he said the last thing he remembers before the gate dropped is him thinking to himself, "I don't think I did my start map." I'd imagine they must have that in the data somewhere, but at a point that I spoke to him, they hadn't looked yet.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it yet.
So, 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 it's exactly how I started the chase segment. Actually, now that I think about it,
Trying to gather yourself before we get into
well,
this.
it's hard because I interviewed Max. It's easy with Chase because I only spoke to him off record, so it's easy for me to compartmentalize my thoughts. I'm trying to think where the interview stopped. The interview stopped, and the first thing I said to him is, "I don't know, but if Seattle's muddy and suddenly you can't ride mud, we're fucked. Like that's going to be the telling point. If you are flailing around, legs off the pegs, and oh look at Max, 10th place in the mud, then all hope is lost. That will be the official panic button territory. I think a lot of people are going towards the Deegan mentally fried him, and of course, the results do kind of paint that picture to a degree. But where Max was especially, let's say Glendale was the first time where he was actually bummed because it was the first time where he had nothing to say. He had no answer. Anaheim 2, bad start, cased that double, speed was good otherwise. Houston, laugh all you want, but the air pressure, once that was figured out for the final main, had a start, ran with Deegan, that's fine. All day at Glendale, he said he couldn't point to a single reason why it went that way. What I wonder is so much of Max's advantage in Supercross is whoops and big rhythms.
Yeah.
So when you take those out, I think that's where you see the lesser side of the results. It kind of neutralizes his advantage. Whereas maybe Deegan, not to compare him to Max, but just as another rider, his advantage is everywhere. So like take out one element and it doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I honestly don't know. It isn't a good look. It is weird. And honestly, I think obviously he knows I'm hanging out here this week, but I said to him, I was like, honestly, I think the best thing for you is just to change your flight and come to California with me and just have a week of fucking around and not doing anything. Like, because at this point, I think going to the farm and engaging in just the same shit that you've been doing for X number of weeks is the worst thing that you can possibly do, which is also where we led to like, yeah, I need to maybe stop testing as well.
Yeah. Well, the old saying I say this a million times on here is the insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And that still can include doing the same thing over and over by changing everything. This also can be doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
I also wonder, Joey is the outlier here. But if you look, all of the riders who did the entire WSX series, so not Eli and not Ken, they're all kind of not doing maybe what you would hope. And I wonder
Jason a little flat at the end of these
yeah,
races.
like not Jason's not bad, but I would argue that he's maybe I mean, it's all relative. I would argue that he doesn't look as spicy as he did in WSX. Again,
And
relative because the competition, etc. And you know how quickly teams, agents, managers, whatever else, jump to conclusions in this sport. I wonder if people start to put the pieces of the puzzle together and go, "Yep, WSX isn't a good idea." That's not happening now for you, for you, rider who's never done it but wants to talk about doing it. Like, no, look at all of these guys. You know, I do wonder because
I think the tough one, of course, is we went off the good end of what it did for Eli or even Coop, and I guess I get it. Like, you go race one or two, it's a great way to shake out the cobwebs and learn some things. But I can also see the counter argument of, can you really convince me that racing like 6 or 8 round, like racing a full championship right before your main championship is a good idea?
yeah, because even not just physically but mentally, yes, it doesn't mean as much, but you're still riding the wave of mentally championships over. Oh, got that done. Like, you know, I don't know. Like, and also, Kenny obviously wanted to do the full WSX series, but he did say when I spoke to him in Gold Coast, like, it is good that I don't have to do anything in December. Like, because I think that block of time of December is enough to, you know, just like mentally, WSX is in the past, AMA is here. Whereas for maybe Anderson, Craig, Max, etc., it blends too much, which is also maybe why you saw Max so strong at Anaheim 1, because that's where you reap the benefits of that. It's longer term once the others start getting into their stride and your season goes longer. I don't know. I think so many times we see people put 2 and 2 together in this sport and sometimes make 5, sometimes 4. And then conclusions are come from that, and suddenly everyone's doing the same thing. And I wonder if this could be a similar scenario. But speaking of WSX, the first round is Unadilla weekend in Cardiff again. So,
yep. They picked Cardiff. I'd asked 2 weeks ago, and I was told it was Canada.
No, I believe it. Well, I believe it's Cardiff. I think Canada's round 2.
Okay.
But those are definitely the first 2 rounds. Maybe it is the wrong way round, and my source was wrong.
I was told directly that it's very similar to 2 years ago, that first round, and then it's a pretty large gap to round 2. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I haven't seen the calendar, but I heard rounds 1 and 2, and then a big gap to the
Okay,
rest. So,
maybe that's what
I
update,
mean,
because yeah,
they're not racing in September or the beginning of October because of SMX and Nations. So that will be
yeah,
the gap.
yeah.
But actually, we must deduct points from WSX because I swear they said their calendar would be out by now. They definitely teased a calendar in January.
Yep.
So, got to call a spade a spade.
I
That's
was
not
gonna
good.
say one little aspect, I guess, where we can keep weighing up the WSX impact is Anderson still has a very long season ahead of him because of full 450s, tracking how that does. Because on one hand, you might go, oh, continue to adapt to the hep bike to getting his feet back under him. Will he improve? Well, if we start to see it affect him more and say he starts to slip behind Jorge and Joey a bit more, that will be something to weigh, weighing how it affects Joey across the season. And then one other sampling will be uh, Cody Shock was originally when he started WSX, they were going to have him race West, and then because of the time spent on it, they swapped him and Volan. He's doing East, so I'm curious to see now if coming into East, if he has basically a very well-rounded season, or if we also, if if it basically backs up our thoughts, or if it counters where he just starts good and goes downhill.
I'm sure that some will listen to this conversation and say it's contradictory because, of course, Eli has said that, and Ian Harrison as well, that perhaps the Anaheim 1 San Diego results wouldn't have been possible without the off-season races. And this isn't a discourse about off-season races, and it's not even a discourse about WSX, it's just about the full championship.
Yeah.
I think without doubt, doing a couple of races is definitely the way to go, and it would probably be helping Chase right now if he could have got a couple of races on the Kawasaki under his belt. I just
Are
don't know
you
if racing up to 2 weeks before A1 is the way to go.
have you started working on getting Chase a 2 round SMX or WSX deal yet for next year? For
I
this year?
want I want WSX money. The money being thrown around, especially the money being thrown around for like the guys who would miss outdoors for the start of the season. Get me that deal. I'll skip Unadilla. I'm good.
I'll skip you.
Like I'll take that money and I'll go to Cardiff. It's cool. Like I but no. Interesting. It is interesting though. It's a wider picture, and like you could even argue Anderson's going back and forth on suspension, shocks, and whatever else. Um, why wasn't that figured out in WSX? Because you would think that would be the benefit. It would give you those answers. So it doesn't always come. And maybe if you're in a situation like Max or Chase right now, where you're testing all the time, maybe racing all the time in WSX actually sends you more into the weeds because you feel like you're learning so much and you're trying to apply that, but actually you're just taking yourself further away. I don't know. We're in the weeds with this now as well. Anything else 250s?
I think that's it. I'm trying to take a quick gander at the results to see if I missed anything important, but
It's a
nope,
it's a
seems kind of like
tough
same
watch.
thing.
It's a
Yeah.
tough watch. Let's end on these topics. Well, first of all, let me tell you about Yoshimura. Of course, they are now leading the 450 SX standings with Hunter Lawrence, a testament to the package that they've got on that Honda 450. But also, you can upgrade your KX 450 with championship proven power. The 2024-2026 Kawasaki KX 450 and KX 450X can now be taken to the next level with the refined performance of the Yoshimura RS12. Developed with direct input from six-time National Enduro champion Stu Baylor, the new RS12 full system is engineered to deliver increased torque, and usable power right where riders need it most. If you own a KX450 or KX450X and want proven performance on the track or trail, trust the name champions rely on. Find yours at yoshimura-rd.com. Thank you to them for their support also. So Seattle, unless I'm an absolute idiot, which I may be, Seattle Seahawks just won the Super Bowl.
Won the Super Bowl, yep.
And the talk in Glendale was that because there will be parades to celebrate this achievement, which I guess is quite a big deal, the streets around the stadium will be shut Monday, Tuesday, which means that the track crew will get in later, which isn't necessarily a problem. The bigger problem is it means the track won't be covered and the majority of the rain is coming Wednesday to Friday sort of time. So,
Yeah.
very curious what we get in Seattle. As of now, it has to be said, all of the shit talk about Seattle in Feb and round 6 and what are we doing, the forecast isn't terrible, and
No,
it's also not that different to what we normally have.
it's gone better even in the last 24 hours. When I checked last week, it called for 7 days straight of rain. Now we're only looking at, as of right now, recording on Sunday evening, rain on Friday, light rain. Saturday has a chance of rain, but it's not even showing up as like it's little spotty stuff, and then it could snow on Sunday though. So hopefully we cross fingers the track crew lucks out and they're able to get it built Wednesday, Thursday without weather issues. But yeah, that's this is an exaggeration us going, oh, because I won a Super Bowl. This was literally the conversation at the track, like crew from Feld, like Brennan and stuff that were in the media brought or down in the photo den brought it up multiple times. Like, hey, Dirtworks, the whole crew's already planned for this, or is not planned for this in a good way, but they are aware they win and the Seahawks were the favorite to win for those are not football people going into it. So they were like, yep, they will not be able to get started on this as early as they'd normally like to.
I mean, even last year in Seattle, we had a different track layout to what the track map was meant to be. So I'd imagine we'll get that again. It will be mellowed out. Maybe a straight is taken out and it's rerouted a little bit just to save time, get it covered quicker. And I mean, I feel like that's just the norm with Seattle now anyway. But it'll be
Yeah.
interesting. It's definitely going to throw a spanner in the mix. And to be honest with you, I feel like we need it because, as I've said a few times now, I feel like we're just teetering on the edge of tension almost. Like it needs to break, and a mudder would do that quite easily. So, yeah, watch this space. Any final thoughts?
Nope.
I guess my final thoughts are if I make it to Kawasaki, should be some good stuff. And that's
How's the photo shoot looking for job swap?
no job swap activities this week, only media. But I was walking around the pits with a kidney belt at the weekend because kidney belts are very important to me. And I bumped into Chase with a kidney belt in my hand, and I've never seen him look so disgusted. And I actually genuinely felt and dare I say, everyone, I don't think I'm going to be wearing a kidney belt anymore. So that's what peer pressure does. Because he genuinely looked at me. I think in that moment he realised just how shit I am on a bike. And yeah, kidney belt
I
behind
have
me
a
right now.
closing. I do actually have a closing thought at the beginning of this. We did talk about how Jorge Prado went from almost not qualifying to for national to potentially winning a Supercross. So, what hope does that give you, Lewis? After job swap, could we see you race a national? I mean,
Well,
could if Prado can do that, what can you do?
don't ask any questions about what I'm about to say because you can't ask questions. But I said to an agent, "Can you let me know if there's a ride available for outdoors?" And they looked at me and they went, "How well are you expecting this to go?" And I was like, "Oh, not for me." Um, but yeah, that was the immediate thought. I was like, "No, not me." But I will say, it's all a bad idea because more and more people are now starting to approach me saying, "This, you probably shouldn't do this," which isn't good for my psyche. So I don't know. We'll see how things. I mean, let's be honest. If things continue in this fashion, Chase is going to have no time for extracurricular activities. So watch this space, I guess.
I
Anyway,
will say one thing: the viewer will not know, maybe not know what I mean, but your idea, or however you said, of having Chase wear the train spotting camera view while watching you do this and giving his feedback would be fucking
cleared
amazing.
that with Cowie PR last night. Um, yep, all coming together. A lot of Cowie talk on this podcast, and you can get a Yoshimura pipe for your KX450. So would you look at that? And as well as Yoshimura, thank you, of course, to Yamaha Motor USA, DeCal Works, Motorex, and Fox Racing. As I say every single week, 5 partners who are really at the pinnacle of Monster Energy AMA Supercross, and you can lean on the same parts, products that these top riders are using. What a benefit, what a treat of being in the motocross space. We will be back in 7 days' time to discuss Seattle. Who knows what that will bring? Maybe a Jorge Prado win. We'll soon find out, and we will see you real soon.